So now the important component of all of this, let's take a look at the back part of the, or at a cross section through the skull. And here again, you can see the cross-hatched part, which is the neurocranium. The dermocranium is this box which lays over the top of it. And then the lower jaw is part of the splanchnocrinium, and the upper jaw is up there as well, right? Also part of the splanchnocrinium, but all overlain with dermal bone. So you can see the muscles that are going to be used to close the lower jaw are going between Meckel's cartilage and then the platoquadrate cartilage, between the dentary bone, or between the lower jaw and the upper jaw. And we had this discussion about the amount of power that a muscle can generate, and that's a function of cross-sectional area and length of the muscle. So you can have a stronger bite if you now take that muscle and instead of simply attaching it to the upper jaw, you attach it to the side of the neurocranium and then underneath the dermocranium. But of course, that also places a limit on how powerful the muscle can be, because as the muscle contracts, it's going to bulge. And in this scenario, there's no room for the muscle to bulge. So the solution to that problem is to have a fenestra on the side of the dermocranium, so a space initially through which the muscle can bulge out, but then ultimately so that the point of origin for that temporalis muscle can now move to the top of the dermocranium. So not only is there room to bulge out, but the muscle can now be longer too, so that then provides for a stronger bite. And then the ultimate version of that is what you find in mammals. So you'll notice that the portion below that opening, before that temporal fossa, is the zygomatic arch. So that's either going to be the jugal or the squamosal bones down there. So there's this nice gap, and the temporalis muscle can bulge out and attach farther on top of the dermocranium. The consequence of all of this, there are two important consequences. For mammals, what it means is that because of the size of the temporalis muscle and their exploitation of the surface of the dermocranium for origin of the temporalis muscle, and also the placement of the mandibular condyle and mechanical advantage sorts of issues that we'll talk about later, mammals are able to generate extremely high bite forces. A spotted hyena of the variety that they have at the St. Louis Zoo would be able to take your leg off with a single bite right at mid-level of the femur, regardless of how big you are. That's how powerful that bite is. Reptiles can't do that. Now, a snapping turtle has a pretty powerful bite, but they generate that force in a fundamentally different way. The important point of all of this for reptiles and birds is that, with the exception of turtles, reptiles and birds have diapsid skulls. And because they have a diapsid skull, by eliminating a portion of that bar that exists between the two temporal fossa, they are able to have a kinetic skull. So the skull can move. And we talked about how when a bird opens its mouth, both the upper bill and the lower bill drop down, or the lower bill drops down and the upper bill goes up. Mammals don't do that. The upper jaw is stationary and the lower jaw is the one that moves. Now, obviously, most lizards don't do that, but snakes certainly do. And there are some lizards that have kinetic skulls too, in which both the upper jaw and the lower jaw are able to move.